Is the most expensive part of every meal that everyone eats. And most would argue that is also the most important part of every meal.
The Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries announced Friday morning that Governor Landry has declared November as Wild Game Meat Donation Month. Until the last day of November, hunters are encouraged to donate their harvest, like deer or hog meat, to organizations like Hunters for the Hungry Louisiana so they can serve shelters throughout the state in need of protein.
With deer season upon us, it is a great way for people within the state to be able to give back to their community, to the shelters, to the churches that are serving the needy right there in your community by donating your deer, by donating maybe some deer meat, sausage, protein that's in your freezer already.
The executive director says their processor partner list is growing, but that comes with processing fees. Last season, the organization spent $250,000 on processing fees.
Just like everything else that we see, in the grocery stores and all these things, the increase of cost continue to hit everybody pretty hard. And so that's why our organization is trying to raise $100,000 before the end of the year so that we can continue to add processors to our list.
More than 200,000 pounds of meat were donated to the organization in the past season. In Monroe, Kenya Ross, KNOE 8 News.